As a heads up, this video presentation is a lesson demonstration workshop covering a few hours. Our Twitch Tuesday lessons disappear after a while, but we re-record them here so you may enjoy them long after our Twitch sessions are over. Hi everybody, this is Howard Forder of ForderLearnToFly. Today, the lesson, let's go check out the MV-22 Osprey. This helicopter airplane is very unique in the fact that it can do both helicopter and airplane. And handling this beast has been quite a challenge. I'm 20 hours in working with this airplane and I'm still learning. Let's go take a look at this plane as a lesson to learn about its intricacies in this presentation, and then we'll go and do some demonstrations along the way. Let's start out by just talking about the disclaimer first of all. Look at this. This is my first flight in it. I left the engines at 100% and they quit on me. I wasn't that far from the airport. This is how we learn. That's why God invented simulators. But in here, I just want to mention, you guys, all lessons in this Twitch stream or in this YouTube video are given by a non-CFI but real-life pilot. So I have teaching skills of teaching for 30 years in the IT field with numerous certifications, but I apply those teaching aspects here on teaching how to simplify things, how to make things easier to understand. Hopefully that'll come through in this session today. These are for flight simulator of any brand, doesn't matter which one you fly. I'm using Microsoft 2020, MS 2020, MSFS, whatever name you want to call it, the newest one from Microsoft. And I make a lot of flight lessons using this product. I'm sharing my knowledge with my teaching techniques. All right, so this is the Osprey MV-22, beautiful plane. Now it does come with this extra product that you see here. If you see me looking around, I got multiple screens here, but this extra product you see here is the aircraft carrier collection. We're not talking about that today, but that's an add-on that you can buy to add to this, and gives it a lot more challenge and missions and all the rest of it. Some beautiful aircraft carrier collection in there. I'm taking it right out of an airport. Matter of fact, I'm in Southam in Brighton, and I'm in the UK, and I'm going to just take it from there. But this tilt rotor is unique, and we got to get to know how to use this properly. Now, the first thing I'll mention here is the bindings that you're going to need. Okay, with a bigger screen here, we can see what's going on. The first thing I want to talk about is binding the special needed function first. This is important. You can't fly this plane without it. Now, some people say, well, I fired it up on a runway, I spawned in, everything was running, I took off. It's true, but you can't change the angle of your engines, or what they properly call the nacelles. You can't change the angle of those unless you bind these two keys. So you see in here, it's called increase cowl flap 4 or decrease cowl flap 4, and bind those to some switch of some sort. Now, if you take a look on my screen, I actually have it bound to my collective, which is it's a fun way to do it, but it's not something that everybody has. Not everybody has a collective that they can work with. Let me just come over to this to show you an idea what that's like. Here is my collective right here. If I pull it up, it'll lift up, and on here I've bound a slide switch that I can just change the nacelles while I'm actually using the throttle. And then I have my stick here to make it fly from here. You'll see this in all the demos, all right? And that's easy enough. We'll show you a lot of demos of what happens when you move the sticks, what happens when you do all these things. So you'll see a lot of that along the way. All right, let's move that out of the way. Let's just make sure you've got at least those two things bound. Now, you don't need flaps bound, although a lot of us do have a flaps switch. There is inside the plane an area. I'll show you where the flaps are. There's an auto setting, which is recommended for all phases of flight. As we move these engines, as we move the nacelles around, pivot them around, then there would be different flap settings. So we're just going to leave it at auto. And that's normal in this plane. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is the TCL, the thrust control lever. Now, a lot of us will use a collective because this is a helicopter, but you don't need it. Inside this airplane, inside this aircraft, I should say, there is what looks like a conventional kind of military throttle in the left hand, stick in the right. and like a helicopter, and in the right seat like a helicopter. So you don't need a collective. A collective is just handy if you do happen to have one. This is the one I have here in the middle, and I have actually made this one over here on the left. And what this does in any helicopter, the collective pulls up or down on your left, when it's in the down position, it's by your left knee, by your left thigh. When you pull up, it actually increases the pitch. We'll show you this when we get in there and have a look at this thing. When you pull it up, it increases the pitch, and it actually makes the aircraft rise. So it makes sense. You pull up to rise and push it down to fall. And we're going to find this fine-tuned area in the middle, where the slightest movement will make it start to descend, and the slightest movement up will make it bring it back up again. We're going to see that. So that's your throttle one axis, and that's all that's needed. I talked with Miltech Simulations, and they mentioned that you only need throttle one because both engines are mechanically linked. So you only need one throttle for that. The FADEC system here for this aircraft will manage both of those engines at the same time. Now, I do want to mention, I threw this picture in there. This is one of the references that Miltech Simulations has referenced with their manual. And I do want to show you in here, you can see the parts of the airplane. This is actually very interesting. You could pause it here and just have a look at it a little longer. I'm not going to drag you through all the systems here. I found it kind of interesting that there's these 24 crash-worthy troop seats. Crash-worthy. That's very reassuring. And you notice in here there's this transmission interconnect shaft. Even if one engine has a failure, it'll be driven by the other engine, and both propellers would still work, which is pretty cool stuff. Back here, the IR suppressor to reduce the heat signature when they're flying. It's a military plane. Over here, the refueling probe. We can extend that and bring it back. I'll show a demonstration of how to do that. Conversion system. Fail operate conversion system. Now, the conversion means convert from helicopter and then down into airplane. That's what's called conversion, and we're going to do that. All right. So this is something you could go and look at later, but it's pretty neat how it works. Here is an example of it in action. There's a real one right there, ready to pull up this. What is it? A howitzer? What is that? So here I do have, you can pause again. This is one of those areas you can pause and read it. I'm not going to read this whole thing to you, but you can see in here it replaced the current Marine Corps assault helicopters medium lift category. And then as well, the Air Force variant is CV. The Air Force requires the CV-22 to provide long-range VTOL. VTOL is vertical takeoff and landing. So there's STOL, which is short takeoff and landing, and there's VTOL, which is vertical takeoff and landing. It can do both of those. Tilt rotor, vertical takeoff, short takeoff landing. All right, now the Amphibious Ready Group is that other product I talked about, which is the aircraft carrier collection and missions and all of that, and they've given them to us in all these locations. So this is a separate product you pay for. Now, with just the Osprey itself product, you can fly it anywhere, of course, in the MSFS world, anywhere in the world, and away you go. But these are a really nice collection. I'm not going to cover them today in this video. I'll do a separate one for that product and fly the same airplane off of that. Plenty of variants in here. You can check out each one of them. I'm just using number 2 here, which is the, it says Thunder Chickle, which is one of the Marines ones. So we'll just use that. You guys can use any one you want. Lots of variety here for us to choose from. Now, those of you who have seen my series on Tuesday evenings on Twitch, ForderLearnToFly, you'll notice that I do this Learn a New Airplane series. And what that simply means is we check out a new airplane, or even on Tuesdays, we'll just do a basic skill. We did a Tuesday evening once, more than once, on landing skills for any airplane. And so what we're doing here is we're learning a brand new airplane. We don't know anything about it. We know nothing about its capabilities. So we go through these 7 steps that I've designed for us to learn a new airplane. As you can see, number 1, obtain the pilot's operating handbook or some type of aircraft manual to help us understand limitations, speeds, how to operate the thing. Where do I find these things? Where is the APU? Where is the flap switch? All that stuff we need to learn. All right, and that's what my 7 steps will help us with. And I've modified it a little bit. Number 5 here is handle the tilt rotor, right there. Handle the tilt rotor. Yeah, that's important. Because, what's a normal thing for this? How do you fly this thing properly? Cockpit orientation, where everything is. Without going through the detail the manual does. The manual is excellent. They made a great manual here. Got me on my way. It's got all the checklists we need without the complexity of the real POH. The real POH for this aircraft could easily be 600 pages. So, this is perfect. Now, a conventional helicopter has this tail rotor blades, the anti-torque spinning blades at the back of the aircraft. We've all seen this at the end of the boom. We've seen those Hollywood movies where they blow up the tail rotor and the aircraft just sits there spinning until it falls, right? So our rudder pedals, these actually are the pedals I have. The rudder pedals still control the conventional rudders at the back. We'll show you that in a video. But they also control the pitch or the angle of the rotor blades. We'll show you that again in the same video. We'll show you how it controls the rotor blades. Because when you're in helicopter mode, there's no air flowing past the rudder. You have no rudder authority back here. This rudder authority back here is only when you're flying faster than 40 knots. You know, even up to 40 knots, that might have some effect. But as air flows, then you'll have some kind of effect. All right, certainly the faster you go. Same with the elevator at the back. No effect when you're in helicopter mode, right? So it does actually change this. It doesn't need the anti-torque blades at the back. It will manage that through the two rotors at the front, in the middle. All right, and that's what's going to happen. So the Osprey is very unique in that sense. Now, two manuals come with the product. There's a flight manual, which I'm referencing all through this information session. And then there's a quick start guide, which gets you in the air right away. The default mode, when you jump into this plane, the default mode is like this, where you see 60 degrees on the engines or the nacelles, and you're ready to take off. And this will take off in about 20 feet. You'll see, you'll give it full power, it'll creep forward a bit, and then you'll be off the ground. Nothing to it. Now that's short takeoff for sure. But you'll notice that when this thing is in the at-rest position, which I will show you also, those blades up top, those rotor blades, are way too big to be rotating while it's in the normal airplane position. So it cannot land or take off with these engines straight, with the propellers like conventional airplanes. They're just too big. You would wreck them. All right, so this is the way we typically take off and land. This is the limit. You can't go any smaller than this. All right, because your blades will start hitting the ground. So that's interesting to see that, because now we have to manage that. And that's what the POH is going to help us with, is to manage that. So the flight manual is great. You can see in here all the different sections. There's about 50 pages or so, something like that. I've read every one of them more than once, and that's what you should eventually do. Here in this session, this will get you going. Follow along with me. We'll get you in the air in the different modes, and you can go from there. And then go reference the manual, and you should still read it. So here are the 6 things we're going to do. Matter of fact, number 6, the single engine emergency. We could cut an engine, but we'll see that both engines still work. We just don't have as much power. All right, we can still do everything, like most twin engine airplanes can still operate safely and get to land somewhere. But we're not going to do that part. We're going to do the most important stuff: hovering, spot landing, landing normal, taking off normal. I mean normal meaning you're moving to come to the runway. Normal like normal airplanes, right? So that's the sort of thing we're talking about. All right, here's what we've got. This is the first look inside the plane. You can see it's got a stick in the middle, typical helicopter cyclic, they call it, because that affects all the blades the same time. All right, so think about that. Same with the collective. In this case here, the collective, actually, I'm not sure if they call it the collective, but it's what it does. You slide it forward and back like a conventional military throttle. That's it. And then there's controls on there to control the angle of the engines. But so you can use that. You can use a conventional stick and flight rudder. I'm just using my collective that I have for helicopters, and I'm using my stick, my Verpal setup here. Now I want to mention about this. This is a helicopter. So the helicopters are susceptible to something called Vortex ring state, or VRS. Some of you know about this. Some of you know about this very well. Those of you who fly helicopters for real, this is a very dangerous thing. Here in the sim, if it happens, okay, we'll restart again. What was that thing that just happened? And it could very well happen here in the sim while you're training and testing like I am right now, because you might be distracted talking, teaching, looking out the window, doing something else, and whoops, I'm now into a vortex ring state. If you have enough altitude, you can recover from this. All right, that's the idea. Now you take a look in here. It says, what is it though? I mean, I haven't said what it is yet. When the airflow comes up right through the middle, right there where there's no lift at all. The lift is out here on the blades, as you can see by the vortex rings. This is airflow, you guys. And this is what produces lift. Well, once this happens in the middle, you get this type of look from the outside too, which pushes the aircraft down. I mean, the weight of the aircraft doesn't help, right? It's going to just fall like a rock. There is no more lift going on there. And this is dangerous. So we want to avoid this. Now, it's nice that inside this airplane, they actually give us this indication over here. When it's in that red area, this is feet per minute, you guys. In a level flight, we'd be right here. And when we're in vortex ring state, we're down here. Uh-oh. We only have about 500 feet per minute to play with. That's it. And that's a very fine tune on your throttle. We got to find that sweet spot and learn to gently put this down and bring it up without being in this vortex ring state area. All right. Up here in the left here, you can see we do have the angle of the engines, the nacelles angle, and it is at 90 degrees. And 90 degrees, of course, is helicopter mode. This one here, I brought it out as an expanded view of what it looks like, and I realized that one's a 60. That's the default if you spawn into a runway, 60 degrees, and that's what you'll operate on. But you're going to watch this closely, and this green arc will change as you change the configuration of the airplane in the air. You'll see it go down further or get bigger, and you have to stay in that green area. All right. Easy mode. Oh, we got to do easy mode, you guys, because in easy mode, we don't have to worry about vortex ring state. We don't have to worry about wrecking the engine. So, and then the funny thing is, in all my demonstrations, I was in hard mode because I'd spawn back in again and go do the demonstration and realize, oh, it's in hard mode. Hard mode is the default, and hard mode means you have to pay attention to your percentage NG. I'll talk about that and how easy it is. And you have to pay attention to the angle of the engines as we go along. Now here you can see just step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They certainly don't make it easy to go to easy mode, but you can see it in here. 1, you go to CDU in the center console. CDU is called Central Display Unit. In the Central Display Unit, you pick the CDU button, you pick the ACFT button, and over here you can pick menu 3, and then on either side you can see you can pick easy mode. So once you're in easy mode, things get easier. And why not, when you're first learning an airplane, go into easy mode, and then later on go back to hard. All right, there's some things you need to know. I've highlighted a couple of things here. Maximum VTOL altitude is 5,500 feet. In other words, when you're in helicopter mode, as high as 5,500 feet, you can't rise any higher. The air's too thin. It can't take a big enough bite. All right, and that's typical. I mean, all airplanes that are propeller driven have this thinner air when they get up there. Cessna 150s and 172s, they have a ceiling of 15,000 feet. Why? What's with the ceiling? We could just take oxygen for ourselves, right? But the propellers are flying through thinner air and thinner air and thinner air to the point where they're just not effective anymore. And same with the lift caused by the wing, you know, it's just, it changes with thinner air. So this is the limit when you're in helicopter mode. You want to go above that mode, you can go up to 25,000 feet, but you've got to be in airplane mode, and that's what we would do. Typically 90 degrees in VTOL and 60 to 75 in normal short takeoff and landing. Again, because any less than that while you're near the ground, you're going to hit the props on the ground. You got a prop strike. Now this NG, I'll talk about that in a second, but NG less than, if it's greater than 98%, no longer than 60 seconds, that should say seconds, SECS. The engine will shut down due to damage. Now, so we just bring it back to 96, 97% for full power, all right, but never 100. Down here, airspeed limitation, they're talking about 280 knots, whichever's less, I mean, that or a Mach remark. 280 knots in airplane mode flying across the country, all right, 25,000 feet. And that's it. That's as high as we'll go with this plane. There's obviously limitations on airplane mode. There's obviously limitations on helicopter mode. But this is one versatile beast. So that NG number, remember, less than 100% after 60 seconds, or you're going to wreck the engine. So here it is idling. It's what you actually hear in the background right now. It's idling at 70%. It's just a percentage to make it easier for us, right? That's actually what's called gas generator speed right here inside the engine itself. They're measuring that speed. All right, and that's the speed you're seeing here. And there's a simple easy dial or an easy readout on our main MFD. This is the center console, but on the main MFD, it gives us our collective NG percentage. All right, and we're going to watch that percentage. When I'm coming in normal airplane mode at 60 degrees, I'm going to come in 60 degrees for the nacelles. I'm going to come in probably around 80 knots or 70 knots, and I'm going to have this set for 60 to 70 for the actual degrees, and I'll be coming in nice and gentle and put it down. And that's the whole idea in airplane mode. So, you know, these are things you got to learn as you practice and see the video and see things going on. But that's what they're measuring. That's what they're showing us here in the two engines, and they summarize it into one display over in the MFD. And it's actually right here, down here, but I'll give you a bigger picture of that as we go along. Right there is our percentage. So you notice on our MFD, and this is set for PFD. So they're called MFDs. Both of these are multifunctions, can do both things. They can do many things. But I've got my right one set for PFD. I could set the left one for PFD, but the point is, once you have PFD set up, you can see speed, and we'll get into a closer view of this, but everything is right there. So a lot of times while I'm flying, I'm zooming into that screen and back out again, because I'm looking at it on a screen like you are now and going, what? What's it saying right now? And you're looking at these tiny little digits. So you'll want to have a way, and I've done this with a simple push button on my collective. I've got a way to just push the button, it zooms into this screen so I can see quickly what my numbers are, and then hit the normal button to see the outside view and all the rest of it. So that might be something you'll want to do too. So in this cockpit orientation section here, you can see what's directly in front of you. This is the view. You're seeing outside, you're seeing down here to see a bit of the ground while you're there. If you've got a Tobii eye tracker, if you've got the Track IR5 or whatever, that would be so much better. You glance over like a real helicopter pilot would glance over to see that ground, to see where they're actually going to put it down here or even further over here, to see exactly, because right now I can't see, I can only see further ahead. I can't see where I'm actually touching down. All right, and that's why you need to have some way of looking around while you're actually flying. All right, so that's part of it. Two MFDs, we'll get into more detail with that. Your backup instruments right in the middle. Autopilot panel is up here. We'll use that for hovering. There's a hover autopilot, and then further over to the left here is your CDU, your central display unit, right there. Your central display unit will go in there a few times for things. The FMS we won't touch. We might have time to go touch the lights part and go show you the tip lights, which are really nice on the rotors. But here's where the flaps are. They're in the auto position right now. Here's where the gear is. It's in the down position right now. And those are two important parts too. And those are usually mapped to something inside your cockpit. The throttle collective is FADEC controlled engines. And there's the stick right there. Up top, we have an overhead panel. Just the last thing I'll show you, because we need to do this for startup and shutdown. We need to do this for lighting and comm radios and anything else we need to touch in here. What's really nice is it has all the ramp doors. The doors here, these are the door switches right here. The engine control switches right here. The battery here, which can be controlled by your alpha or whatever else you have. And then up here we have the APU, the power unit that'll be used when you need to start up and all the rest of it. And fold it up too, it's in here too. All right, I said I'd get a closer view and then we'll go do some more demos. But in here you can see what's directly in front of you. I've got the PFD selected as my soft key. In there is your typical PFD kind of screen. Even if you've flown with like G1000 or something like that. Altimeter tape, moving tape is over here. Airspeed moving tape is right here. Obviously angles are here. Direction is here. I mean, it's got everything in front of you at a glance. And I love this, it's great. A little bit different way of showing the VSI, the vertical speed indicator. And in the middle is level flight. Further down, of course, you're descending. And further up, you're ascending or climbing. And easy enough. And you notice they have the nacelles angle right here. Always in front of your face so you can see it. And they also have the NG%. And this is sitting at 72 with yellow caution. Yellow caution is actually a low RPM caution. And there's an actual alert light up here because of this low RPM. And then we just increase the RPM and away we go. This is important also. The radar altimeter is important because when you're in a helicopter mode, you need to be more accurate than just barometric pressure. You need to be more accurate than just, I think I'm at the right altitude for my instruments. A radar altimeter is obviously more accurate for that. And it's interesting because as you fly over the countryside and the ground rises up, you'll see that radar altimeter change, even though the altitude you're flying at hasn't changed. Let's say you locked into 2,000 and you're flying across the country at 2,000. And the ground comes up to 1,500, your radar altimeter will be bouncing off that and saying, you're at 500 feet. Ooh, this is important. Okay, so that's good. Over here, this one I've selected nav on here, but you can select all of these and see what they are. We're gonna select a few of these in our demos. And this just, you know, it's really the same as what this is down here. But I like this because it can give me reciprocal settings and it can give me 4 points of a pattern. But whatever other reason, you know, what that you want to do. You can play more with this one too for video behind it. You can put in synthetic video, synthetic camera, infrared camera, I think is what it's supposed to be, but it'll be that eventually. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention that too. That's another thing right there. All right, I mentioned about the tilt rotor. Number 6 in our Learn a New Airplane in this case is about the tilt rotor itself. When they talk about angles, my first confusion was which one is 0? Is it in relation to the vertical plane or in relation to the horizontal plane? So 0 degrees is airplane mode when the engines are exactly the same as a conventional airplane. 0 degrees, facing the same way as the nose, as you can see here. In here, 60 degrees is the default mode, and in this mode the propellers are nowhere near the ground, which is perfect, and this is the default mode that you would fly in most of the time, 60 or higher. And higher you go, more into helicopter mode. As you can tell, the lift vector will change, of course. You've got some forward, you've got some complete, you know, straight up lift in there, so it will move forward and get off the ground real quick. In here, in this mode, it's the same mode we would be in to land, which is pretty cool. All right, and that's what they mean by the... Now, don't mind my graphic here. I took a 60-degree expanded view of the nacelles indicator, and then I realized I was on the wrong side of the plane in my picture, so I just flipped it around, and then I realized the 60's backwards. But it's still the idea anyway. This is telling you the angle of your engines on the outside. Here it is in 90-degree mode. I got it right this time, except mine still says 60, but the whole idea of 90 degrees is straight up. 0 degrees is straight out. And here I am in AutoHover above the airport where I am right now. That's a lot of information, you guys, all at once. You might have to pause a few times through here to get it all in. But let me just say this. I said it was paused above the airport. What I actually did was I set it up so I was stable and paused at whatever this is. This could be 200 feet maybe 100 feet. I'm sitting here above the airport hovering. I've managed to fine-tune the collective, fine-tune the cyclic, and then once I'm stable, all of a sudden the hover coupled arm light comes on the autopilot panel. If that arm light comes on, click it, and now it says active, and it'll hold you there. It's great! AutoHover. It's beautiful. It's one of the first hands-on parts that we'll do. We'll take off vertically, we'll try to get it into some type of hover, and when that light comes on, punch it. All right, now there's one other one you have to turn on, and that is the main autopilot coupled CPLD. There's another button just to the right of it that should be on too, but we'll go do that. But it has to say arm first. All right, summary of all of this, you guys, and then we'll go and start doing some more demonstrations. You cannot land with nacelles at 0 degrees. You learn that. All right, the propellers are way too big. Here, have a look at this picture. Look at the size of those propeller blades. Okay, that's the first rule. You can't land in normal airplane mode. They're just way too big. Second thing I want to mention is here, easy on the controls. Fine-tune. This is with all helicopters in the sim. This is with all helicopters in real life. If you think it, you'll probably go there. You know, it's the old expression of you'll go where you're thinking. You'll go where you're looking. When you land a plane, if you look at those numbers, you're heading to the numbers, you know. It's really true. Never let the vertical descent speed enter into the red zone. When it does, you'll hear beep, 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 and that's bad, as anybody would know. It's in the red arc, and it's giving you an audible tone. It's time to do something. If you have enough altitude, give it more throttle. If you have enough altitude, even point the nose down and pick up some more speed. One or the other, we got to get this thing out of that state. That beep, beep, beep means you're going to fall like a rock and die, right? Obviously, we're in the sim. That's not the worry. Keep them in the green zone at all times, all right? In that angle green zone that you saw. All right. So, Takeoff VTOL, this will be our first exercise together. Wait a minute, I can't see you do this. Okay, but in the normal Twitch session, we do this as a workshop. We have everybody on the field, and away we go. And we do this. And demonstrate it, then each of you try. So here it is right out of the manual. Check your maximum takeoff weight for VTOL. We're in the sim, you guys. We're not too worried about it. Check your takeoff area. It's clear from obstacles, of course, because you're going to put one heck of a blast from 2 prop engines. Nacelles between 87 to 92. Well, I put mine exactly on 90, but they've got some flexibility there. All right. Because sometimes you're doing this. I'm actually moving the nacelles while I'm coming into land, and then I'm going to hover. And I'm not zoomed into the cockpit with my head in the cockpit. And I can't see the exact angle. I glance down, it's around 90, it's working. And they give us this flexibility between 87 to 92 degrees. Always turn into the wind. Always. It's more important with helicopters than it is with normal airplanes. Increase thrust slowly and takeoff VTOL. Now what I want you to see when I do this demonstration is I find the sweet spot, the point where it's so light on the wheels that you move the stick forward and it actually starts taxiing forward. I'm in helicopter mode and it can taxi forward. That's how light it is on the wheels. Any more, another couple of % of NG with my collective and pops off the runway. You'll see how easy that is. That'll be our first demonstration. Once we're in that hover, just go up a bit, adjust your throttle and try to stay there. You'll find yourself might start creeping forward. You got to pull back. You might find yourself traveling backwards. You got to go forward. So that's really what you got to work on. This is the secret, you guys, to working with this in helicopter mode, with all helicopters, is to get it up in a hover, move it forward a little, back a little, and then see if you can gently put it back down. That's what they do in helicopter training, and that's what we need to do here too. I'm saying establish a hover at 20 feet. Well, let's be more flexible here. Let's go when you can finally stop it from ascending. Hover there. Doesn't have to be 20. All right. As a matter of fact, in 20 feet, you might even be in ground effect. Let me think about this. Typically, ground effect is the length of the wing, length of one wing. Yeah, easily 20 feet. 20 feet, you'd still be in ground effect, but go above 20 feet anyway. All right, that's the first demo, and we'll stop it right there and continue on after the demonstration. And if you take a look right now at the angle of the nacelles, they're straight up like a helicopter. What a beautiful sight, isn't that? So that's what we're working on right now. Let's go back inside now. Let's just have a quick look at our display. There's our 90 degrees on our nacelle. No forward speed right now. No altitude, and obviously no feet per minute. So what we want to do is we want to just test out the helicopter part of it. And we also want to do a transition from helicopter to airplane back to helicopter. So we'll do both of those. You notice right now the only error we have is RPM low, and we got the alert up here. Anytime you see those errors like that, then you just have to go to, you have to go to here to the center console, and I'll just zoom in on that. And in the center console, you can see what the problem is. Underneath this line, you'll always see what the errors are that are giving you those errors. RPM low. So actually, I'm not too worried about that. The hydraulic pressure here is the most important one for moving things around like the nacelles. And your NG is the number we see on our main display. So let's go take a look at that. By the way, if you wanted to turn this into easy mode, this is the screen to do it. Go to your CDU here. Go over here to the ACFT init. And from there, pick menu 3. And from menu 3, you can see it on both sides. We'll just pick easy. That way you don't worry about vortex ring state. But let's leave it hard. Let's just show the demonstration on this, on what happens when that does happen. All right, so let's go back to our normal view. We're about to take off now straight up. All right, just like any helicopter, increase the collective and try to keep it straight. Now, most people, once you start to take off, you can start moving forward. Let me just do that again this way. As you start to take off, then you can start moving forward, right? Typical helicopter. Opposite of an airplane. In an airplane, you pull back to rotate. You pull back to actually lift off. Here in a helicopter, you lift off straight and go forward to move forward. Isn't that interesting? So, helicopter mode, here we go. Power's going up. Power's going up. Probably around 90% or so, it'll lift right off. It's starting to get jittery, see it? If I push forward, actually I can taxi. Is that cool? If I pull backwards, I can taxi. Look. Doesn't have enough power to lift off, but it's got enough power to keep me light on my wheels. Is that cool or what? All right, a little bit more now and I'm off the ground. Up she comes, a little bit forward. Remember, you got to keep that percent NG below 100. So I'm just going to bring it back to 95, 96. That'll work. And there we are in helicopter mode. Beautiful. Now, what if you want to hover? Well, you just level it up. level it up, or even brake. There's your brake right there. Let's stop this thing. And we'll just look down at our brake and we'll see once it gets to 0. Look at that, nose high on the instruments. Once it gets to 0, I'll be hovering. Alright, so I'll just show you from the instruments. You wouldn't sit here with your head in the cockpit, but 3, 2, 0. Alright, right about there. 4, 5, nope, bring it back. There we go. And we should be around hover. Now, we're still gaining. Take a look. Because of the power setting, right? We're at 97%. Still gaining. Now I'm going to just pull back some power. Oops, pull back a bit too much. A little bit more. Don't get in the red. There we go. Almost level there. 0 speed, 0 level. And watch over here. You'll see an arm show up. I'm going to set this already, but right here, the hover coupled, the arm indicator will come on at some point. All right, all the way up to a certain altitude on the radar altimeter, but this is pretty good so far. But I'm going to have a look outside because I think we're moving. Yeah, we're moving kind of. Are we moving kind of backwards? Yeah. So let's just, when you are level flight without any crosswind or indicators, you'll see an arm button show up right here on the hover coupled. And you can actually couple that and you can stay hovering. I'm doing a pretty good job by myself without using autopilot. It's pretty much doing the job. Let me just have a quick look overhead. See, I am moving a little bit backwards. And when you're learning, you guys, you can just do this. Use the indicators, all the indicators that you have. I'm pushing forward a bit, forward a bit, forward a bit. There we go, I'm stopped. Okay, during our helicopter demonstration, we also want to learn how to taxi properly. Here we see sitting on the tarmac ready to go. Let's just come inside. I just want to show you how we can do some taxiing here. Take a look at my number here and watch as I move the collective. Bring it up to about 77% maybe, right around there. 78, 77. I'm going to leave it alone. And I'm just going to use the Cyclic to go forward. Notice that? Backwards. So you get to know what speed or what power setting you can use for taxiing. And as we look outside, you can see a little bit of Cyclic forward, a little bit back. Now, when you use the rudder pedals, there's not enough wind going past the rudders at the back. We don't have enough air movement back here for these rudders to have any effect at all. What's really happening with the rudder pedals is you're moving the pitch of the rotors at the top, the pitch of them, the angle of them is changing every time you move the stick around. And if you actually look closely here, and see how close we can get in here, you actually look really closely at these things. I'm going to go sideways here. And let's just see what we can see here as you move it forward. Yeah, you can't see much. We'll do it when it's still. But there you go, forward on the stick, back on the stick, and that's how you taxi around. All right, so let's come back around to a normal view like this. Maybe let's do something like this. The sun is not working well with us. And let's just follow that as we go along. All right, we're going to taxi out. I'm just going to leave the power setting the way it is. And the more you push the stick, the faster you can go. And if you need more speed, then of course you would use a bit more power. But remember, with the collective, using power on the collective, the more power you give, eventually it would actually lift right off. All right, so let me get a better view here. Come back to maybe this view. Maybe this view. There we go. All right, so let's just do that. Do some taxiing. Going forward, look how easy this is. I'm going to turn here. Again, I'm going to give you outside views every now and then. And use the outside views to get oriented. Use the outside views to figure it out. Oh, that's going over to the airport. Get to know the airport that you're at. I want to go out to the runway, so let's go back over here. Nice thing about it is it's an all-terrain vehicle. You can put it up and down anywhere. All right, let's do it right. So heading out toward the runway like this. Now I could easily just take off and go there, but I just wanted to show you like the taxi demo. Pushing the Cyclic all the way forward. Little touch more power, maybe up to 78. And you can see I can clip along at a pretty good speed here. Good enough for taxiing, that's for sure, if you have to taxi. And there's plenty of times that you do have to go to the threshold of the runway. Many helicopters have to come in and out at the threshold where normal planes come in and out, just for the flow of traffic, unless they've got a clearance, of course, to come right into a heliport. So there we go. Look how easy that is. Now I could even go backwards. I could say, oh, I missed my spot. I could have done this back there too when I missed my turn. So you could go backwards. A little harder to steer going backwards, but and I could say, okay, there's where I wanted to turn. All right, so I'm just going to leave the stick neutral now, let it coast for a bit. All right, now I'm going to go forward, and I'm going to use right rudder. There we go. And I could turn there. Oops, I touched the brake. You notice that? There's the brake. Oof. Anyway, let's go back. I want to head over. So you can see that the rudder pedals also do the steering, which all of us expect. So watch the steering wheel there. I'm going to do a hard left, hard right, without touching the brakes. And you can see the steering wheel. Oh, you can't see the steering wheel because of my camera. All right, let's get another angle here. So there's the steering. There's the wheels at the bottom there. There we go. All right, so forward, right, forward, left, and you can see that wheel works really well. And then away we go. Back inside, follow the line, a little more forward, and we'll get right up to here. Actually, I want the grass, so this is actually the start. You'd get your clearance here to take off right here at the hold short. I would stop right there. Look how agile this thing is. For a beast, it's actually pretty agile. Stop and start at will. I want to go over here to the left. All right, let's just come over here. I'm going to take off from the grass, you guys. And the grass is a good place to start because it's flexible. You know, the grass you can go play. And you can touch down a lot softer than you can on pavement. I'm just using normal taxi controls to get into place right here on the grass runway. There we go. If I'm going straight up, I could do it from here, but if you are, you can even start your roll from here too. You just can't land on the chevrons. But so there we go, rock and roll. Now I want to take this up while it's in this mode. I want to take it straight up and turn on the automatic hover. That's a really nice feature, and I want to turn that on and let's see what that's like. All right, so let's get a better view here. I want to see forward and back movement again. We want to test that we're doing forward and backwards properly. There we go. Let's bring this up now to around 83% or so when we look closely at this guy right here. We're going to be up. Again, you can't see that, can you? Let me move these two over. Let's bring this one over like this. And let's leave this one on nav. That's a better one. Yeah, you could still see it sort of, but all right, that's probably better. Whatever view we take, we're not going to be behind the camera. What I'm going to do eventually is click on the arm and the autopilot activate coupled. And so here I am, 70 something. I'm going to go straight up this time. So let's go back out, straight up. I'm going to give it up a little more power. You can see it's starting to move around. Look, I can pull back, I can go forward. So this is really light on its feet now. All right, we've got those rotor blades are taking most of the weight. I've got this agile control here just pulling backwards, forwards. Pretty cool. All right, now I'm going to try and hold it there. As you pull up, if you want to move forward, you tip the nose. But right now we want to go straight up and hover. It doesn't matter how high up, but let's give ourselves a buffer. Let's go up a few hundred feet. All right, I'm going to hold it there, give it some more power, and it should come up right about now. All right, I'm going to take it up to a few hundred feet. If I'm going forward or backward, we want to get a better view here. I think I better probably bring it back a bit. You get an idea whether you're going forward or backward. All right, come back inside. Looking pretty stable. I think it's above 200 feet maybe. The hover control works. I forget the actual statistic. But we don't want any forward movement and we don't want any backward movement. So there's some forward movement. And I'm going to drop my collective just a touch. Just a touch. Find that sweet spot where it's not climbing or descending. I'm going to let it down a bit. There. That seems to be it. No, it's still climbing. Down a bit more. Now I'm descending. Man, I'm just... There we are. You can tell I'm descending. Okay. Now, you can tell better inside, of course, because you take a look at your vertical speed. You can see my vertical speed's getting down into ring state. I'm going to pull it back a bit. Bring it up. Back a bit. Bring it up. This should be at 0. I'm in double digits. Am I actually going forward? Yep. Take it to there. And once we get close, Is that at 0? That's at 0. We got no forward speed. Got a touch of backward speed. And we're pretty much level. And you can see the arm button has come on, and then I'm going to activate and activate. There we go. And as for some reason, it still kept moving. I'm just going to go back forward again. Arm and activate. Let's hold that. All right, there's our demonstration. Now let's have a look on the outside. Locked. Let's have a look all the way around the plane. Almost looks like it. No, it's not going backwards. No. This is looking good. Let's just look from here. It'll give you a good idea whether it's moving forward or backwards. That wheel is locked where it is. I do see it. It looks like it might be dropping a little bit. You know, there's the hover mode where it's locked in. It's the automatic hover mode, it's called. And there's practice that has to go on here, but you know, quite honestly, taking off is the easy part. Giving it more power on the collective and seeing it rise, and then setting it to arm was not so hard to do. I mean, getting that arm to show up probably is the hard part. Getting your aircraft stable so it's not going forward or back, of course. So now what we want to do is the harder one. The harder one is actually the landing when you're in helicopter mode or vertical takeoff and landing mode. You can see here from the actual manual, it talks about the criteria to make this happen. A little more intricate because as you're coming down toward the ground, you have to cushion that landing. Certainly there are wheels with suspension on them to help a bit of the cushioning when you touch down. But you've got to be careful. I mean, as fast as you may come down, it might seem slow enough. Once you hit the ground, you realize it's too hard for actually touching the ground. While I'm still new to this aircraft, I've mentioned 20 hours in, when I'm still new to this aircraft, getting control of this thing as you're coming down to the ground and realizing you're now starting to creep forward a bit. Not so bad if you're coming down to a taxiway or a runway, where going forward a bit's no problem. Coming down to an exact spot like you see in this diagram was one of the biggest challenges for me to get it on this spot. As I got closer to the ground, it would creep forward. I have to adjust the cyclic. It would creep backwards a bit, forward a bit, oops, I'm going sideways a bit, and get this thing down onto the ground without slamming it down to the deck. And there's the hard part, right? That's the finesse. That's the fine-tuning of working with this aircraft, is trying to bring it down at a decent rate, but then really slowing it without going forward or backwards and touching down gently. You see the professional pilots do this. You see the military pilots do this all the time in the movies. They obviously have thousands of hours. I got 20. So am I setting myself up in case it doesn't work? But this is actually my first successful landing where I wanted it. I'm serious, you guys, and that's how it works. I'm telling you how it works. When I put this down on this helipad area over here at Shoreham, this is something that I wanted to do. I wanted to take off from the grassy field, practice a bit on the grassy field where there's lots of grass, lots of field, lots of big area in case I go forward, backwards, or sideways. And then once I got that under control, now come over here and try to land on a heliport. And it was like, it worked. And obviously this becomes more important when you start doing things in real life like you see here. I mean, it's still the sim here, but here it is on an aircraft carrier. You can't be sliding left or right and going, oops, you know, slide left, you're in the drink. You slide right, you're hitting this other VTOL that's sitting here. Oh, sorry, this other Osprey that's sitting here. So, you know, you have to really be accurate about putting it down. You'll notice, again, in the movies, you guys, you're seeing the best of the best. You're seeing pilots with thousands of hours who can put things on a spot. They can do exact speeds and feeds and whatever it is you need. Seeing the movies where they bring the president in the backyard and drop them down onto the grass exactly where the red carpet is sitting or whatever. You know, this kind of stuff is from thousands of hours of practice and getting to know the airplane or the aircraft so that it's second nature. All right, I'm not at that stage yet. I'm still at the learning stage. You know, I'll probably be that way at 50 hours. So this is just giving you guys a heads up on if you're having frustration getting this thing down onto a spot like I did here. I quickly took a picture as like I did it, and then I'll try it again and again. So that, you know, that's the first thing. Once you get it successful, okay, rinse and repeat, you know, that sort of thing. So take a look here. Observe wind speed and direction. Always, this is always the case. Taking off and landing, you're always going to turn into wind, even if you don't start into wind. Even if you're in a 20-degree hover, or sorry, 20-foot hover, 10-foot hover, turn into wind first before you start doing anything. All right, always. All right, it helps with cooling, it helps with aerodynamics, it helps with stability, all the rest of it, especially with helicopters. And now we're in helicopter mode, you guys. All right, so you can see in here, we're going to do to be adjust speed and nacelle angle. Limit the angle to greater than 75. We're going to leave it at 90, like helicopter mode. And then and speeds under 40 knots. So as you're going forward, remember we tilted the aircraft forward to go forward. Actually, we haven't done that in the demonstration yet, but we will in the next demonstration. But we're going to, you know, like you just did, go vertical up, do a hover. All we're going to do right now is come vertical down. So we still don't want any forward speed yet. We're not doing the transition, or what they're calling the conversion. We're not converting from an airplane mode going fast to a helicopter mode doing a hover. We're not doing that yet. So what we're doing is we're just keeping it simple, one skill at a time. We went straight up, we hovered whatever altitude that was. Now we're coming back down. Now you can come down as gentle as possible. Make sure you don't get into the ring state area. But as you get closer to the ground, you'll have to cushion that fall. You'll have to have less FPM without drifting around. All right. And there's the skill. There's the challenge, I should say. The skill of it is actually managing your controls so that that doesn't happen. As you touch down, you want it to be as gentle as possible. All right. Now, a good test for this is as you were starting to take off in the early one, as you started to take off vertically, bring it up until you just see it lift the wheels off. Even use the outside view if you want. Try to hover there. Now bring it back down gently. Touch the ground. All right, do the same thing again. Take it up 10 or 20 feet only. Try to hover there. All right, just a tiny bit less on the collective. Watch it settle back down. Poof, on the ground. So this is the way to start. Just do gentle up, hover for a bit, down. Go progressively higher, hover for a bit, come down, and just see what that impact is. This is the beauty of a simulator. Take it up even further. Bring it down, maybe a little faster this time, but slow it up with a bit more collective, and then touch down. And as you get better at that, you can try it at different heights, right? Now you can see now, as you are heading towards your destination in airplane mode, with the nacelles forward and the blades turning the normal way of a normal airplane, as you get closer to the airport, do all your very fast descents while you still are not in helicopter mode. Once you're in helicopter mode, you can't do those fast descents, no more than 800 feet per minute, or in this case, probably no more than 400 feet per minute with this aircraft. So you can't, if you find yourself like 3,000 feet above the airport and there's no way to get down fast enough, you didn't prepare ahead of time. Get down while the angle is less than 90. Get down while you're at 60 or 70. Head down without any fear of being in the ring state. Once you're at, say, 1,000 feet or circuit height, maybe at that point you can go into helicopter mode and then go slowly from there. All right, but you'll see them come in. They'll come right into 500, 400 feet above the runway. And they're still coming into the runway where it's safe. And come in at 400 feet above the runway, 200 feet above the runway, and turn into helicopter mode and come down the last 200 feet, you know? And then move over as you're 20 or 30 feet above the ground. Now do taxiing, do an air taxi, or touch down and do a normal taxi. All right, so here we go, landing. It's the harder part. Harder than landing an airplane. Airplane's easy enough. You can even do a hands-free landing with a bit of adjustment on your rudders. And I've demonstrated that many times in typical GA planes. But here in this helicopter, there's no such thing as a hands-off landing. There's no way. You don't just set it, forget it. Yeah, it's going to work. But so let's go see what that looks like. So a couple other things I want to remind you. The normal checklist stuff, make sure your gear is extended. You might have been in airplane mode with your gear up. Remember that whole gear checklist. It's a bit expensive and embarrassing if you do. In this case, not so much damage, but landing on the belly of the plane, you're going to wreck a bunch of things that are pointing out at the bottom. Thousands of dollars worth of stuff, but you probably will not be in danger as far as your life goes because you're just coming down vertically and you're touching down gently. But get that gear out. There's your cushion when you finally touch. Flaps are always on auto. Here in the sim, I've been leaving it on auto. I don't know enough yet what settings for flaps work best. We can use our knowledge from airplanes to do that. Flaps when you're coming in to land, I don't even know what flaps to use for vertical landing and takeoff, let the auto happen. At 300 feet above the ground, level the fuselage altitude, and start turning final. So wherever your final is, all right, I'll still typically come in towards a runway properly aligned. But with helicopters, you can come in any direction into that airport, typically into wind coming into that airport. So you got to think ahead of time, right? Under 200 feet above the ground, descent rate must be no more than 400 feet per minute because it's just going to fall. It's going to ring state fall, all right? So less than 400. And that's a very small window on your MFD. Between level and the red arc is about that big. So that's all you got to play with. Move the nacelles to 90 degrees. And then, you know, as they say here, it's, you know, it's between, what did we see earlier when we were taking off? It's somewhere between 87 and 92, something like that. Establish a stable 30 to 40 foot hover over the landing area. 30 to 40 feet. That's hard to judge. When you're in this big plane sitting up high, it's like, how much is 30 to 40? In this sim, we can just turn sideways and have a look at it. Ah, I'm above the ground. I'm still hovering. Okay, that's 30 to 40 feet. How do we know, right? Reduce throttle very slowly to lower the aircraft. Just a touch, all of a sudden, here she comes. And make sure that feet per minute do not exceed 400. You'll see it creep up real fast. Once you've touched down, cut the throttle, apply the brakes upon touchdown. Remember, even while the propellers are spinning and they're still near that light weight, I call it, where the wheels are almost ready to lift off, you know, where the aircraft is taking the weight of the aircraft and lifting it off the ground, that very light mode where you're about to lift off, your plane can easily creep forward or backwards. So once those wheels touch, brakes on, all right? And then as you cut power, then you won't have that problem anymore. So that's the idea you see behind it. So let's go see a landing of a vertical takeoff and landing. And I'll even show you, maybe I'll intentionally or unintentionally show you what happens if you come down a bit too fast, you know, those sorts of things. Let's go see that in action. All right, so we take off from here. You can see I'm on a helipad. I'm going to use this view when we want to see how we're doing with our hover and how we're doing with our touchdown. Let's come back to here now. Let's go up. As we get light on our feet, let's make sure we're not going forward or backwards. Right there, and up. And when we get there, you can see it's really light. And when you get to that point, let's get it right off the ground like that. As we get up there, let's just hold back on the collective. Wow, it went forward right away. Hold back on the collective. It's hard to mistake. It's easy to mistake forward movement with ascend or descend. So you got to get that view out the front, or even use your instruments. That should be level there, using your instruments like that. And then you can decide whether you're going down or up. So right there. I don't know if I'm over the helipad, but it doesn't matter. I'm trying to establish a hover like that. And you can see I'm still going a bit forward, back. Hard to tell in this view because sometimes the view changes when you do that. And then I'm descending, right? So it seems like I'm descending. Look how delicate this thing is. All right, now I want to put it down. Okay, let's put it down. How do you put it down? Well, you're looking at your vertical speed. I'm going to get away from these buildings. Yeah, it's not good to practice around buildings. Let me come over here. I'm just using course left rudder, heading over to the field. Let's do it over here. This is the best place to practice, you guys. A little bit of forward collective. Sorry, a little bit of forward cyclic. I'm sorry, I keep messing up the words today. Stick backwards. I'm going to say the word stick, and I'm going to say throttle. Right? Sync rate. All right, so there I am outside doing some kind of hover like that. And now I want to put it down on the ground. All right, so I'm going to just go like this. Look at my vertical speed. It's lowering. And get that vertical going properly like that. That should be a nice gentle descent. Pull back a bit, right to there. Gentle descent. And make sure you're not going backwards or forwards when you touch down. Like that. Like that. And touch down. And you got wheels to turn if you have to. It's still so light on its feet that it's easy to pull it back off again. So let's try that from here now. I'm going to go up just a little, hold it, and make sure I'm not going forward. Down a bit and touch. Alright, and we're practicing landing, you guys, right? So it's getting used to that stick. And you notice I've left my collective up here. I'm just using the Cyclic now. I'm just using the stick. Alright, so I'm just going to go up a touch. That should pull off the ground. It wants to go forward. And now I'm just going to I'm pulling back on some of the collective, back on the throttle. As you get close to the ground, you might even give it a touch of throttle so it's more gentle. Nice and gentle. Oops, forward, backwards. Look how gentle that is. You might want to put a dead zone on your stick here in the sim. All right, let's go up again. Up. Try to make it level. All right, hold it. And then now a little bit less, just a touch less on the throttle, touch less on the collective. Try and keep it level, and now you can see what that looks like. It's sort of going backwards. There we go. Yeah, you don't want it going backwards. All right, so now let's go back inside and try the same thing. So up. There it's up. Don't go forward. Let go a little. Don't go forward. And touch down. What does that look like? There, I'm going backwards. So the hardest thing I'm finding with flying this plane is I don't have that downward view, a window through the floor, which I'm used to on some of like the R44s or whatever else. And it's really hard in here to judge the forward-backward stuff. So you know, again, I'm going to just pull it back up because I'm right on the friction point. Let go of the collective. Try to level that. It's going backwards. Nope, sorry. It's going forwards. That's why you want to be in a field, right? And now I'm going to let the throttle relax. It's sinking. Good enough. I don't want to sink too fast. I'm not in the ring state sink. All right, right there. You can see the speed, my descent speed, right? Oops, you can't see that right there. Descent speed's too much. Going forward, wow. There. And it should touch down. A little too hard. And going backwards. So that's something to keep practicing. Alright, obviously it's hard to do. Look, there. Don't go forward. Try to level. Just being level in the aircraft doesn't mean you're necessarily not going forward. Letting go on the collective, letting go on the throttle. Finding that sweet spot where it's not going forward or backwards. You could even trim it, you know. Pretty much. For some reason there's a little bit sideways too. Up again. Hover. It automatically wants to go forward, so that must be the neutral zone for the stick on this and where I am. So if I could, all right, I'm learning now. If I want to stay hovering, then here, let's let go of some power. If I want to stay hovering, I'm going to have to pull back when I go up, because the tendency is to push forward and go. Pulling back a little. Up. And bring it down. Simple as that. You just keep trying this for hours. I'm not perfect. I'm not showing you perfect because then you would be frustrated forever. It's like, how did I get there? Alright, so that's getting better. And it gets better with time, everybody. So you just keep doing it. Whoops, pulled back too far. Up, level. Come back down. As simple as that. Now, in helicopter training, they want you to hover right there. It's probably ground effect. It is ground effect. But they want you to try and hold that without touching down. And then that's a nice gentle touchdown, but that's not what they want you to do. Looks like I'm going like sideways by this thing. Yeah, I am. Wow. All right. The nice thing about this plane is you do have wheels. It's not runners. So with wheels, certainly you can have some forward movement. Let me try once more. Up. Hold it. Make sure I'm not going forward. Down. Pull it back a bit. Right there, and you can see with every step of the way, I'm getting better at it. Alright, up. Pull it back a bit. Come back down. Come back down. Pull back level. Don't go backwards. Back level. Fine tuning. Nice gentle down. Like that. Getting better. You can see already, 4 tries I'm getting better at it. Nice and gentle. Now go inside, try to do the same thing. This is where it gets harder. I mean, look at your views. So maybe we can find a better view. There's no floor view. You could look out there. That might be disorienting, but you know, maybe get that kind of view. So at least you see the ground. All right, let's try once more from here. I'm going to give it some power. 77, 78, should be starting to get light on its feet, and it's up. Up, there we go. Try to keep it level. Well, different from inside. There's level. And now try to put it back down. Like that. Less power. Gentle. Less power. I'm already on the ground. It looked pretty stable, didn't it? I was already on the ground. Alright, here we go again. Bring it up. Hover. Come on, hover. There we go. Nice hover. Go forward, backwards. Alright, level up. Less power. Level. Level. No forward, no backward. Wow, it really went backward fast at the end. So look how much harder it is than from the outside. Alright, one last try. Up. We're up. Less power. Sink it back down. Don't go forward. Man, that throttle, the collective, is so delicate. Looks like I'm stable. I think I'm stable. Instruments say I'm level. Seems that I'm going back. As I sink. Yeah, I've gone forward a lot. You can see that. So I guess the difference is looking out the window is when do you know you're going backwards, when do you know you're going forwards. Use some kind of reference like I have right there. Alright, let's try that. There's a good reference right there. Don't override that little yellow sign. And I am, every time. Alright, there's backwards, forwards, and then here. Level. Oh, it's such a delicate part in the middle. The forward and backward is too delicate. It shouldn't be like that. I don't remember that in real helicopters. They're way too delicate. And down. That's tough. I'm gonna have to make an adjustment on that, but you get the idea, everybody. That's how it works. Okay, here we are over the field. Let's have a quick look here. Yep, over the field. Pretty stable. What we want to do is go back inside for a second and zoom in. We just want to have a look and see what happens if you go too fast on your descent. All right, and I've moved the dials over so that you can see it better. Sorry, I've moved my MFDs over so you can see it a lot better. Let's just adjust that. All right, we're concentrating on this right here. Right there. It's 1,600 feet right now. I want to see what happens if I'm descending too fast. All right, and that's what I'm going to have a look at right now. All right, so let's descend too fast. I'm just going to bring the power down to maybe 80 or so. Wow, even there. Sync rate, sync rate. What does it look like on the outside? Well, feet per minute are over 1,000. 2 ways to fix this. Forward speed. I'm doing forward speed over 40 knots will fix it. There, I'm over 40 knots. My flaps automatically adjusted. And I'm going to pull up. And I can get out of that. A little bit more power. I'm out of it. All right, I'm out of that ring state scenario. So I can recover with enough altitude. Let's have a look outside. I've recovered. Am I still over top of the field? Yeah, it looks like I am. No, I'm over top of the river. If I go down right now, I'm going into the river. Left rudder, and away we go. Just come back over here. Let's get back to the airport. Right around there. There's the airport. Okay. And a little bit forward, and then we're good. All right, now I want to do a descent down into the field. Do something safe like this. I know it's the sim. You can land anywhere, but let's do this. Back inside. All right, let's see this in action. Level it up. Get that speed gone. There we go. Speed's decaying. There we go. At 0. All right. So now what I want to do, you guys, I want to, now that I'm level, I want to reduce the power down to 80 again, or so. Sync rate, sync rate. Left unchecked. Look outside the plane. Left unchecked. I am descending way too fast. I am actually in ring state. Way bad, way bad. Now, I could give it full power. I'm actually at full power and I hit the ground. Alright, it bounces and it flies again, but that's not normal. Alright, so let's just try something else again. Let's get back up. Get control of it from whatever angle we're flying at here. It's hard to fly this plane from this angle. And then let's get back up there again. I want to show it once more. I want to show it how to recover, or even try to recover. Alright, let's get back in again. Now we're going to try to recover. Bring it back down again. Like that. Get it level. Right about there. Now this time I'm going to try to recover. I'm almost in a hover now. No, I still got some forward speed. Alright. Like that. And we're good. Right there. Now I'm at 1,000 feet. Now I'm going to just drop some power. Down to 1,000. Sync rate, sync rate. Drop it a little more. I'm not doing anything more than, yep, it says stall on the screen. We're definitely in a stall state. Now if I give it lots of power, I pulled out of it. Alright? I only lost about 300 feet. I was talking anyway. See if I can stabilize that. There we go, right about there. Alright, we're stable again at 700. Alright, this time drop some power. Let it get down to 1,500 feet per minute. Maybe down to there. Stall again. Going down fast. I'm getting full power right now. Full power. Couldn't do it. So, and it bounced. So, you know, the whole bounce thing isn't normal. But, you know, that whole bounce like that, I mean, that's a crash. You just can't recover from those things. Right through that, whatever that is. So, it's a good thing to realize that don't let it get that far. Alright, go back up again. I'm going to do once more. Up we go. We're up. Bring my power back so I'm not in the red. Get that looking good up here. Should be straight up about 300 feet. And I'm in a good spot to go land somewhere. Alright, and again, this is now, let it down gently. Alright, now my power's at 90% or so. I see that it goes into sync rate state, so then I want to, well, I'm not doing it well here. Let's just do it from instruments. I'm just going to pull that back so I'm in a hover. Right there. And right there. Trying to anticipate when it gets to 0. There we go. Alright, 500 feet, hover. Try not to have forward movement. There. 2, 1, 0. Can't quite get there. My stick keeps leveling up. Alright, there. 600 feet. Okay, we'll take that. Now, I'm just going to give it back. I'm at 96% power. I am climbing. Come back a little. Just a little. And I'm level. You see that? Get rid of that forward movement. And I'm level. Wow. You know, that's just like that. Now I'm going to take it back from 93%. Let's see what happens if I take it back to there. 92%. Now I'm descending. I'm almost into ring state. There's a normal descent right there. At the maximum normal. Don't go backwards, Howard. Maximum normal. You can see that from the outside. That's my maximum normal right there. Any lower? Look, I'm in ring state. I'm pulling back, so I'm not descending forward. That's normal. Like that. Any less than that? Stall. Right? It's actually blade stall. It's a wing stall. So it's not wing stall. It's blade stall, but it's like the equivalent of wing stall. So you can see even at 1,000 feet per minute, it's doable, but it's going to hit hard. Right? Look at my radar altimeter. It's working hard. It's going faster and faster. Pull up a little bit of power. Bring it back up to 400. Maybe up to there. And I'm down. Nice and gentle. So, you know, 400 feet per minute or less. That's the rule. Okay, so we saw a demonstration now on how to do helicopter mode, which for many would be the easier way to understand. Certainly the takeoff part's easy. Bringing it back down gently is going to take some practice. Keeping it from moving forward, backwards. You saw the whole thing. Now we're going to go to your typical, I'll say typical, short takeoff and landing mode. When you spawn into a runway, this is the mode it puts you in. So it's easy enough for beginners who are using this aircraft to just spawn into a runway. It's already got the nacelles set at 60 degrees like you see in this diagram. And it's ready to go. Everything's powered up. You don't have to worry about how to start the engines. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You know, in this mode here, in STOL mode, short takeoff and landing, check MTOW. This is maximum takeoff weight. Now in the sim, we can simulate that. We can go into our settings when we first started and we can just put in our weight and balance in our weight and balance area. We haven't talked about that here in this video, where this is a beginner introduction, familiarity kind of thing, and some strategies to manage the thing. But in weight and balance, you can add passengers as much as it allows. You can add cargo as much as it allows. And next thing you know, you're on maximum takeoff weight. Look out. Because it's just harder to pull off. Of course, you got all that weight. So taxi to the runway to takeoff position, and then check the areas clear from obstacles. So here they've taxied around. Now taxiing is get the engines running and get just enough to move forward. The thrust vector, if you want to look at that, if you look at sideways view, the thrust vector, you've got some lift up, you've got some thrust forward. And that's the optimum angle. And second of all, the fact that these blades, they still call them rotor blades, even though in airplane mode they're forward. These blades are very large. The diameter of them is huge when you see one of these things on the ground with the engines off. If you put these into airplane mode to take off, the blades would hit the ground. So that's why you can't do that. You've got to keep it, this is the optimum angle. So we're going to use this angle to take off. As you use this angle to take off, you'll find it's very quick because of the fact that it's got a lift vector right from the propeller blades. So as we go down the runway, believe it or not, 20 to 40 feet will be off the ground. 20 to 40 feet. Now, that's short takeoff and landing. This is why it's such a versatile military plane. Put it in anywhere. Take it out of there. You know, even if you had to go straight up, you know, vertical takeoff. So this is a beautiful thing. I found that landing this airplane with the forward speed of it doesn't react the same as a normal airplane. This was tough for me. Hard to get this thing down on the ground, and also the approach speed is a bit too fast that I'm used to. And you don't flare with this thing. So, you know, I'll talk about that when we get to the landing. The takeoff part, again, just like VTOL, the takeoff part is the easy part. Because you give it full throttle, you're off the ground in 20 feet. Once you're off the ground, do like they do with helicopters, move it forward just a bit to pick up even more speed. And as you can guess, the nacelles angle will change and give you more forward thrust vector. All right, so that's the idea behind it. Not so hard to do. The easiest way is to just spawn in to a runway and you're ready to go. Give it power and go. All right, simple as that. And look how the steps here are pretty simple. All right, remember, as soon as you finish taking off like that 20 to 40 feet and you put that nose forward and pick up some speed and some altitude, remember to pull back your NG below 97%. Again, watch that engine, all right? And when you do spawn in, you are in hard mode, as they say, all right? Instead of easy mode. You have to go and manually go to easy mode every time if you want to stay in easy mode. But just get used to using it in hard mode, which means just keep it below 97% just after takeoff or within 1 minute, all right? That's the idea behind it. Let's go see that in action. Okay, everybody, we're going to take our first spin in a non-helicopter mode. This is important because you can't always go straight in and out, or you want to actually just use the runway to come in and land. So let's just take a look at, first of all, you can see that we are at a 60-degree angle. If you just take a look at the angle of that, that's our normal default. When you spawn into a runway ready to go, you're going to see that 60-degree angle to start. All right, let's see what that looks like inside. Here we have our nacelles angle right here, and we've got 60 degrees on that. Obviously 0 for our speed. We're at an airport with 0 elevation. Our radar altimeter says 0. They agree. We're at idle at 72%, and our message here is RPM low. That's why we're getting a master alert up here. You can't reset that till you increase the RPM a little. All right, so let's go back out. Let's take off and let's get rolling. Let's reset that back to this view. Go back inside. All right, so let's just take a look at why would we do this. And if you see outside here like this, we've got a runway ahead of us with a hard surface. If you're using just helicopter alone, we have to think about sink rate. But with this, we can just roll in about 20 feet, we're off the ground. So this is actually a safer angle for the nacelles, because this angle will allow us to do dives and climbs and not worry about vortex ring state and things like that. It's in hard mode. I just spawned in. So let's go. We've got to mind our engine. We've got to mind. You'll notice once we take off and gain some speed, I'm going to pull that RPM back out of the red zone. So we're going to pay attention to this number right here. Right here, we'll turn to 100%. It'll go yellow, it'll go red, and we got to get back into the green. That's for certain. All right, that's the plan. Let's go. Power up. You can see I have the stick here, and I also have my throttle. In this case, I'm using a collective like a helicopter would for the helicopters that we fly here. All right, rock and roll. I'm going to bring the RPM up. You can see I'm starting to move. I'll take it right up to 100%. Watch how fast it comes off the ground, just like that. Lean it forward like you would in any helicopter. And when you lean it forward, be careful you don't lean it too forward and get into the ground. And as you can see from the side view here, when you lean it forward, you pick up more speed. There we go. We're good. Now you notice that my RPMs are up to 100, over 100%. I can't leave it like that more than 60 seconds, so I'm dropping it back until it's in the green. It's automatically adjusting. How's that for a touch and go? It's automatically adjusting the flaps on this. I've got it set for auto, which we do for a lot of things that we do in these configurations. Auto is the best way if you're just starting out. So I'm going to come around here. I'm using coarse rudder pedals, which in this case the rudder isn't that very effective. It's actually using different pitch on the rotor blades. But at the faster speeds, of course, rudder would work. I'm going to leave my gear down because I'm going to turn around and come back and do a landing. All right, now that we've seen that in action, now let's do a landing. And a STOL landing, when you have helicopter ability, do you really need to do a STOL landing? Well, you might need to get there in time. There might be a timeline. There might be closing weather. You can't just sit and hover, and while you're hovering, you can't even see the ground. Maybe. You know, you might be using an ILS approach coming in. The last 200 feet, you do see the runway, and as you come in and glide on the runway, you've got visibility. And in military life, they do go to those extremes. Here in civilian life, flying one of these, if that were possible, then in that kind of weather, I wouldn't be out there. I'd shoot an ILS, no problem. But so in this case, it is a necessary skill to be able to land this thing while moving forward. And when I say while moving forward, you've got quite a speed there. And you can see in here, it says maintain speed between 50 to 80 knots as required according to weight. All right. And you see the nacelles at 60 degrees coming in on final approach, right? So again, gear extended, flaps auto or manual. I'd say use auto for now. That's the way they do it in normal life. Looking at the landing path, I'm using runways because they're hard surface and they've got a line down the middle. It's easy to align yourself with them. In this case over here, you can notice I couldn't resist. I had to put this picture in beside my left shoulder here. This is me coming in for a landing in a parking lot at a Walmart. I had to go get some supplies, so I came in for a landing. You want to know the truth, you guys? This was my first attempt at a STOL landing, and it overshot the field, and I ended up coming to a stop in a parking lot. So, you know, it's just kind of funny. I'd love to put that in there, and certainly it just shows you that nothing is perfect, and you have to work at it to get things better. All right, so that's the idea. So nacelles are at 60 degrees, or you could even take them to 70. You're not going to hover. You're going to come in with some forward speed, and you're going to land. All right. Land with the main landing gear first. You'll find the attitude is proper anyway. You don't have to flare, or you'll even do you'll be just up too high and stall. So the idea is, as you come into that runway, just keep coming. All right. And that's what I found, that I was just naturally flaring. You don't have to. The attitude already at that speed already has the front wheel higher than the back wheels. So as you come in, you just want to hit the runway. All right. Shouldn't say the word hit because, yeah, I've done a few of those. All right. So that's the idea behind it. Let's go see that in action. Let's have a look here. And let's have another look in here. So 94%, 122 knots. I'm going to be turning around anyway. 1,100 feet. I'm going to stay around there. I'm going to leave my nacelles at 60% because I'm going to be just turning around going in for landing. And I want to show you that landing with it in an angle is easier for adjusting altitude before you get there. And it's like an airplane. This really hits down hard when you look at the side of it. You look at the side of this plane. If I could hold on to that hat switch, when you're coming in to land, it's pretty much like that automatically, and that slows you down. So your back wheels will hit without trying to flare. So like an F-18 or something like that, you don't have to flare at all. Honestly. All right, so the around here will do. I think I'm around 1,500 feet or so. Wow, 33,000 feet. All right, so let's drop. So I'm going to kill some power and head straight down. And you notice that my feet per minute are way down there, and I'm not getting any indications. 1900, I think I better be careful. But you know, I'm not getting any indications. I'm not getting red. I'm not getting vortex ring state. So this is why we stay at this angle instead of just helicopter mode. Now I could pull it back a little bit more. I'm pulling back the nacelles now to about 70. 68, 69, 70. That's actually better for a nice slow speed coming in. And I just have to give it more power now to make sure I don't descend completely. I'm just going to come back this way. Let's see, where are we? Oh, it's behind us. Okay then. Let's come back around where the airport is. I'm using that patch of land right there is a good indicator. I'm using course to get my aircraft around, and somewhere down here, there it is. There is a runway. Wow, really got disoriented on that. So I'm going to pull back power now, take it down to about 80%. And you notice I'm going to get down lower for my approach, so I can have like a 4 or 5 degree approach. Look at this. You can go straight down when you have your nacelles at less than 90 degrees. Vortex ring state is rare. So now I'm going to give it more power. Pull up. And there's my runway. All right, let's just see how this works. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to have a quick look here. 87%, I want about 83. And I'm at 1,100 feet, a little high. All right, take it down. All right. From there, I'm going in for my approach. I should be slowing down now, as you can see. I'm in the double digits only. I'm slowing down on my approach. I'm not worried about VASI right now until you get the hang of really flying this thing. I've slowed it down enough to approach. There's the runway. Pull back a little power. And let's see how this works. Looking a little fast, actually, but let's try it. Like that. Just align it a little more. That looks like a pretty good alignment right there. And drop some power again. And hold her there. All right, and then hit the power from there. All right, that's really the demo, you guys. You could actually pull the nacelles back, all the way back, which will give you a bit of a braking effect. And there's our stop. All right, so that's the demo for landing it and for taking off with the normal 60 degree. All right, the next step is some additional checklists here that I just want to talk about. This is one of the coolest things that they put in here. The blade fold, unfold, and wing stow. Say that a few times in a row. The BFWS. Okay then. Flight ready to full stow. And this is right out of the manual, you guys. And so you can see in here, it talks about each of the things that we need to do. Well, the whole idea, of course, is that you don't have any power on them. They're not turning. They're getting ready to be put away. Typically on a carrier's hangar is where you would put them. And that's what we'll demonstrate right now. All right, but I just wanted to show you the procedure here. Engine control levers check that they're off, and our check is at 0%. Everything is wound down and stopped. The rotor brake is off because during the procedure, it'll want the rotor lock in. And the battery, check that that's on because it still needs power. The APU we're going to run so that we can get hydraulic pressure. And hydraulic pressure will move these things into a folding position, as you can see here. The area is clear because you're going to swing these big engines around. And then go to the MFD, go to the system. You can still see that behind my head, yep. Go to the system part and BFWS. And when you pick BFWS, then you're going to see that you're just going to set it Flight ready is what it's called. You're going to see this in a demonstration, but it's right here, just up above my head there. You'll see a closer view of that as we go along. Full stow select right below that. That's still visible above my head right there. And when we say full stow, then it starts. And it does prompt me. I know one other example of this, they didn't have to touch rotor lock, but in here it actually flashed at rotor lock and it still didn't work. I had to go down and actually click rotor lock right there beside my head. And then it turned white. Anything that turns white is active. All right. And it turned white and then the procedure went on from there all by itself. All right. And it says right in the manual, it just says, okay, observe each of these things that are going to happen along the way. And then it'll be in full stow, verified that it says white. You know, it's white with an asterisk. That means that's active. It's in full stow mode. And then a mule would take that off to the elevator and down into the hangars. Let's go see this in action, everybody. All right, so let's go into full stow. Here we go. Ready? Click. And now it's going to go through all of these things. Let's go have a look on the outside and see what happens. Now, this does take a while. It's slow because it's hydraulics moving all the pieces. You're going to see, first of all, you're going to see things like the blades are going to turn, and then you're going to see the whole engines turn, and then you're going to see the whole wing turn. Are you kidding me? Now, it should be starting any second. Let me just come in here quickly. Rotor lock. I'm just going to click it. There we go. There we go. And then now it's going to continue. It wanted me to confirm rotor was locked. Rotor lock was up top, but it wants me to confirm on that screen. So now it's positioning them right because now it's going to fold them. All right, now take a look at this. It's going to fold them up. You don't actually need this down here anymore. So I'm going to take that out of the way so it doesn't distract you from what we're doing here. There's nothing more you'll see me do with the controls. So there we go. It's an automatic sequence, and now it makes them vertical, and then it folds them. Oh my gosh. Looks like they're broken now. Now it's turning them. If I actually turned up the sim sound, you'd hear it. Woo! You know, you hear that whole thing. Now, if that isn't enough, it says, well, we're still too wide to put into a hangar on a carrier. So let's just spin that wing around. That's what it's going to do next. There, you can hear that. And there it goes, you guys. I mean, is that the coolest thing? I mean, when I do this, I said this on the Twitch stream too. When I do this, I think about the Transformers song, you know, because it's really transforming, isn't it, into just a, I don't know, just an airplane without wings, really, when you see it when it's done. Quite the animation, isn't it? And then once you're done all of that, then you just shut the whole thing down. They would then use a mule to tow it to the elevator, and the elevator would take it down to the hangars. Or they'd stow them, a bunch of them, on the... that just cleared that prop on the Spitfire. Whew, that was close. Oh, it looks like it's going to touch it, but it's not. It's the nose of the blade. Yeah, we're good. So there it is, all packed up and off the taxiway and ready to roll, you guys. That's how simple that is. It's automated, of course, and there was nothing we had to do. Sequence complete. Done. Now, the opposite would happen here. If you wanted to get into flight ready, then you'd have to just click on that and away you go. Simple as that, you guys. All right. Left engine, right engine, RPM low. Yeah, we got lots of errors going on. Now, to finish off the whole thing, we just got to go up, back up to the top. Everything's in the red. We're going to turn off the APU that way. There it is in the off position. And I'm going to hit the power right here. And you can hear it all turning off. And we should have ourselves a blank screen everywhere. Good. Power is off, cold and dark, folded up, ready to go. Look at that great big motor hanging out the front. Isn't that amazing? We got lots of room. That's a great parking job. All right, that's it, you guys. That's the demonstration. Now comes the fun part. Conversion from airplane to helicopter. This is one of the big benefits of this aircraft, is that it can be both. As we've been saying all along, we've learned to manage both. But, you know, we haven't actually done full airplane mode. We've done 60 degree coming in for landing and takeoff. But we've never actually done full airplane mode. This has got to be one of the coolest features. As you can guess, when you go from helicopter to airplane mode, what happens to the airplane? Does it keep flying properly? You know, you're moving that in helicopter mode, that vertical thrust straight up. You're now moving that forward. Does the plane fall a little bit? You know, these are the things you have to think about and get a feel for as we go along. And there's specific ways to do this, of course, here in the checklists. So you can see in here, we're going to go from helicopter mode. You can hover straight up, tilt forward to pick up some speed, and you'll notice in here, it talks about the ideal conversion, 150 to 170 knots at 5,000 feet. All right, now in here they're talking about converting back to helicopter and then coming into land. But the same thing with going into this mode, you can't be at 150 to 170 knots in helicopter mode. But you can move in helicopter mode going to airplane mode. You can move forward like this and head forward. Let's do it sideways. When you're level coming up, you can put the nose forward and pick up some speed. When you're after 40 knots, you can start playing with the nacelles. And the nacelles will then, as they go forward, you'll pick up more speed, more speed, more speed, more speed, more speed, more speed, and away you go, up to 280 knots. And then the conversion back again from full airplane mode, bringing the nacelles back as you're losing speed, bring nacelles back to eventually, and you should be descending during that time too, because you won't have any vortex ring state problems. As you're heading toward the airport and slowing down and getting close to the airport, then the nacelles eventually end up at 90 degrees and you're hovering, and then you come straight down. If you can get to the point where you can zoom in, get down, get close to the airport and be within a few hundred feet and get into helicopter mode and then manipulate around from there, you've managed to master this aircraft. Let's go see this in action. Okay, for this demonstration, I want to show how to get from helicopter mode into airplane mode so that you can travel faster to go somewhere else. And we don't really have to have a destination, we just have to be able to change the mode. While we're in airplane mode, I want to also show you how to refuel, all right? And there are checklists for this, of course. That nozzle right there, we are going to extend. That's the refueling nozzle. We're going to extend that while we're in level flight, while we're in airplane mode. When the nacelles are at 0 degrees and we're pointing straight ahead, then we can actually do that. So that's what we're going to do, that. And also you notice that the angle of these things right now are 90 degrees straight up. And when we are in airplane mode, I'll show you they'll be level or down at 0 degrees. So we'll see what that looks like. All right, let's get going. Back into the plane. When we're out here, I'm going to do that. There we go. All right, so we're in helicopter mode. Away we go, up and away. As we lift off, I'm going to tilt forward to pick up some speed. So there we go. We're lifting off there. Boom. And I'm going to just turn it around to align with the runway and put the nose down forward. You notice down there, my NG percent, my power indicator is in the green, so I'm good. As I pick up more than 40 knots, I'll have a quick look here. We're at 53. So as I pick up 40 knots, I can start changing the nacelles angle. So I'm just looking here. I got a hill up ahead, so I just have to be careful. I've got forward motion. I'm going to change the nacelles angle. Let's have a quick look like that. As I change the angle, look in the upper corner there. I'm going to change that angle and send it down to, let's say, in the middle somewhere, like 60 maybe. Let's do 60. There we go. And it is picking up speed. Let's come back out to make sure we're not hitting something. So we are picking up speed. You'll notice that the red arc is gone. So I won't have the ring state problem. Boy, I'm really having troubles with words here, but no, that arc that you see there is the danger arc that we don't want. We just don't want it. And you can see now I'm picking up lots of speed if I pay attention to my attitude here. And you can see the angle of the nacelles is now 60 degrees. That's what it would be if you spawned on a runway, it would give you 60 degrees. You can fly like that forever. My gear handle is up. I don't know why my gear is not working. Huh. Gear handle's up and it's not working. Okay then. Let's get in there. Let's go look at Howard's gear handle, and then we'll change completely over. So the gear handle is right here. Up, up. You can do it. So some gear handle somewhere is keeping my gear down. Okay, that's all right. We'll leave it like that while I pay attention to flying. All right, so now that we got this kind of speed going, what do we got for speed? 100. Remember, I got to be under 200. Uh-oh. So I'm going to pull back my power to about 80%. Make sure I don't go over 200, because now look at the nacelles. The nacelles right here, it's saying you got to be straighter. You got to make that more of a, as you're heading towards 0. You see I'm in the danger zone here. This arc has changed now. So now I'm going to change the angle of, and I'm going to take it right to 0. So let's have a look from the outside how that looks. There they are, moving to 0. Right about there. And I'm going to pick up speed. Well, I got to be careful of my attitude too. There we go. Bring my attitude back up. Let's go back inside, you guys, just to have a quick look. Almost at 0. Bring it back a little more. That'll still work, but what am I at? 4,500, so I'm not worried about my attitude. Okay. Down to 0. There we go. And a little bit of a bump. All right, let's level up. I think I'm inverted, probably. Nope, there we go. Level up. Wow. And get back outside the plane. Look at that. Boy, did I lose some altitude playing around. A good example of never keep your head in the cockpit, right? Now, at this speed, your rudder and your elevator will certainly have an effect, without a doubt. I'm going to give it more power now. Take it to 100 for a bit, just to pick up some speed. 135 knots, that's all I got? 135 knots. Yep. Now, it said ideally at 5,000 feet. And we were like 4,500 and we dropped a lot. So now we're in airplane mode and we're going to pick up speed from here. I'm actually not sure why I'm not at 100%. Let's take it down to 97 maybe. Let's see how that looks. 94, okay, 97. Not getting the performance I thought I would get. Let's make it level. Should be able to pick up some speed level. 96 is safe. That looks pretty level to me. I'm not so sure that things are working properly here. That thing should be picking up speed like mad. And it isn't. So I think I have an engine problem. Yep, I'm losing speed. I'm just going to take it over to helicopter mode now. To change back, your speed has to be low enough, but you got to have the arc too, you guys. So let's just show you. I'll bump the nacelles. As soon as you bump the nacelles a little bit, it shows you your allowable arc. Oops, look at my attitude. Oh boy. Okay, let's do that. Try to keep it level. Go in. Change the angle now. I'm going to take it up to, let's say, as high as it'll let me. And for some reason now I'm picking up speed. So now I've got my nacelles at 38 and look at the speed pickup. Well, I like that. Now with the speed picking up, I'm going to leave it like that. Now what I want to do is the refueling part. If I can keep it steady like this. Alright, we want that speed because we want to be in a position to put the probe out, right? So now we'll just come down in the manual to the part where you can pick up some fuel. Engine failure, fuel dumping, here it is right here, fueling. Alright, so we go to the CDU, Stat Fuel Probe Extend. CDU is the center display unit while we're flying. And back to control 3. Right. And here you see probe off, extend and stow. We're going to go to extend. Let's go outside real quick. Let's get in there. You can see the probe extending out here. Behind me there. There it is. The probe is extending. It'll extend even more. There's another section. Just like a telescopic pole that you use to wash windows or something like that. Hey, it's a Pinocchio! Alright, and there's for refueling. Now from here, you would refuel. You would connect up with a probe in the air. Let me just see what my altitude is here. Altitude is 8,000 feet, almost 9,000, so I'm good. I'll just leave it like this view. Alright, so let's go back into the plane. And let's go down here to, back to here. Wish I had a zoom in view from this guy. Anyway, so there we go. And then now in here you can see probe extended, fuel. There's the extend, and then there's the stow. Now in here, probe extended, fuel. And your fuel number should change. I think it's because I'm on unlimited fuel. I can't see the numbers change. So then when you're done that, you'll see the numbers change. You'll fill up here. There's no other animation for that. And then when you're finished, you just say stow, come back outside, and you'll see it go back in where it belongs. And then once it's all the way back in, there's a lot of great animations on this thing. Yeah, I think that's what the limitation is, you guys. All my gear is out. It's adding a lot of drag, and I think that's what the problem is. At above a certain speed, your gear should be in, and for some reason my gear doesn't work right when you need it most. And I was using it all day yesterday for this. Alright. Well, that's what you would do while you're in level flight, and then take off and go to other places. As you can see from here, we're going at 200 knots. We're at 8,000 feet, and we're making tracks. If we were to have a quick look at where we are on a map, you would see that we're a long ways away from where we were. Wow, we are a long ways away. We were down here somewhere. And now we're way up here. Oh, EGKBA, there's a familiar airport. Let's go there. So it's just off to our left. Let's go. And we'll go in there and land. Does that look familiar? EGKB? And that's the right direction right there. What a view, what a view. Should be right around that way. Let's put that over here on top of that screen. Should be pretty evident once we get there. And then I'll just go into helicopter mode and land. Or you can still land this way too. Probably pretty fast. The lower the nacelles, the faster the approach speed to get in there. So when you're landing, it has to be 60 degrees or the props will hit. So I can't leave it at 35, but for now I can. Over this way. I'm going to just come over here on a base and come in on this airport. Speed's decaying. Good. You can see that. There we go. Anybody know what airport this is? I think it's Biggin Hill. That's what I think. And we're coming in from the south. I think it's 2709. Right there, off to our right. All right, let's have a visual. Like that. Right below us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull back my angle and do the helicopter mode. I got in too close. So I'm taking my angle up, you guys. Taking it up. My angle should be coming up. I'm at 60 degrees now. At the top of the arc. Wait till the speed decays a bit more. You can see the arc changing here. It's hard to see that. See, the arc is changing. Now I can take it up even higher. How about we take it right up to 90? I'm going to come in as helicopter mode. I'm so close to the airport. 88, 89, 90. 3,000 feet and descending. There we go. All right, let's see what it looks like outside. There we are in helicopter mode. Back inside, do this, and we'll get an idea where we are. Reset that back to normal. Oops. There's the airport. A golf course, of course. Let's just come around to the airport. Look, Biggin Hill, look at that. Let's just drop in there. Actually, there's a lot of areas you can drop in here. Let's go over to the Spitfire hangar, right? So let's come in here. Find the sweet spot where I'm not bouncing up and down, right about there. And just head in here to the Spitfire hangar. I was actually going to try and stay on the taxiway, but that didn't work. Alright. And now we're at Biggin Hill. Should be a couple of Spitfires out here. I'm just pushing forward, which actually does tilt the rotors. That rudder at the back's doing nothing, or the elevator at the back's doing nothing, either is the rudder. But it's really tilting the blades. I'm going to show you that in a second. And I'm going to stop right here. Check that out. Spitfire! Get off the taxiway. And just get up a little closer. And we're good. There we are. And move that out of the way. And what we want to show you now, everybody, is how to fold it all up. Now let me go inside and make sure the parking brake is on, because I don't want to hit that Spitfire. Look at that thing. Heritage hangar, you guys, at Biggin Hill. Yeah, parking brake is on when you pull it up. That's good. So I can let go of the brakes on my feet. So now I want to shut her down and fold up the wings. Oh my gosh, that's a beautiful thing. All right. So that's the next plan right here. So now we're going to go to this panel up here, and we are going to pull these back like that. And we will stop that. There we go. Stop that. Beautiful. And we're going to need some hydraulic pressure here, so let's put this on. We're going to need it to move the nacelles without the motors running. You got to have some other kind of hydraulic pressure here. Run there. So we've got hydraulic pressure now. Everything's on there. There's all kinds of lighting and stuff we haven't showed you here, but so now you can see up top by the shadows. Look at that. Is that cool or what? It's funny, we got windows up there, but do we have windows on the floor? I'm used to helicopters with windows on the floor and you can see where you're going to land. But I guess typical pilots would be looking out this curved window to see where they're going to land. You know, and that would be a lot more accurate. So I think the next time I fly this will be with my Toby head tracker. Alright, so now from here, we are going to fold up the wings, you guys. So to do the wing fold, they have that in the book also. I just want to show you where these are and then we can just do it. So let's go here. Blade, fold, unfold, and wing stow. So engine control levers, we did that to off, and ours now at 0 finally. That's the speed of the thing. The rotor brake is off. Let's go look at that. APU is run, hydraulic pressure. All right, so we're going to do that, and then we'll get there. So we'll just have a quick look here. Oops. Oops, there we go. So now we have the APU is on and running. The levers are at 0. The brake is off, as they said. All right, and now we're just going to check the hydraulic pressure. We'll come back to CDU. Go in here. We're looking for green on our engine. I can't get any lower. Okay, can't get any lower. Control 3 gets me lower. All right. Look at all the errors because nothing's running. But this is important right here, this one in the middle. Hydraulic 3 is what's going to operate the nacelles and the whole movement outside. So that's good. It's in the green. When we first turned on the APU, this started out as red. As it rose up toward 4,000, it turned into yellow. As it reached 4,000, it went to green, and now it's at 5,000. We're good. All right, so now let's go over to our normal screens here on the MFD. Now it can be any MFD that you want to use. And on the MFD, we'll go to System now, right here, System. All right, and then we're going to go BFWS. All right, that's Blade Fold Wing Stow. So when we do that, you'll see that it'll come BFWS control. Oh, there we go. It says flight ready. It's what it is right now. Now we're going to go to full stow. And I'm going to jump outside. Let me just get a good view here first. Jump outside. That's against the sun. Let's come over here. And I got an airplane in the way. No problem. Let's do that. Then we can see a Spitfire too. That's for real, you guys. There are Spitfires here. This is the Heritage Museum where the actual running Spitfires are. So here, we're going to watch what happens here because it's very important. Before we do that, I want to show you how the Cyclic affects the plane. And what I mean by that is when you move that control stick, how does it change the airplane? All right, so here's the control stick here. As I move this around, you'll see that the blades are actually moving around. So is the rudder and the elevator at the back. All right, the rudders are the rudder pedals. So let me just start out by saying this. If we look around to the back of the plane, back here, there's the elevator right above my head. There's the rudders. Now the rudders are actually only a small piece of this horizontal vertical stabilizer, just a small piece. And those are only effective when there's air moving past 40 knots. All right, and so here's the elevator up and down. Don't worry about the blades yet. I'm going to show that to you. Just focus on the elevator above my head there. That elevator is only useful when it's actually in flight and there's air moving over it. When you're in helicopter mode and you're hovering, they have no effect whatsoever. Same with the rudders. Here's the rudders going back and forth. Again, focus just on these surfaces for the moment. Look how big they are or how small they are. Those are your rudders using the rudder pedals. All right. Now, typically in a normal helicopter, those are anti-torque. In here, they're not. Now, what we're doing here is now we're going to look at what those do to the surfaces. Now, the first thing I want to point to is another conventional one, is the ailerons right here. All right, when you do left and right, those flaps are flaperons. They're not just ailerons, they're not just flaps. When you use the flap switch, now they're in auto mode, but when you use the flap switch, you raise them both the same time or lower them both the same time. But when you're doing the aileron, when you're going left or right, it affects them also. All right, so those are the movable surfaces on the aircraft. Now what we want to do is look at the actual rotors. And we want to get a nice close-up view of what that looks like. Now this is where it really shines. The complexity of this is amazing. We all know that helicopters have variable pitch rotors at the top. Those rotor blades actually move. And that's in every helicopters, in all helicopters. And while they're turning, they change all the way around. Every spin they change, right? And they have to. So I want to go left and right now. Look what happens. Left, right. Now you notice that left is actually tilting them toward the left. That's how you go left. It's tilting them toward the right. Wow. All right. And when you go forward, it's tilting them forward collectively. Why they call it a collective, right? So pulling them back, now we can actually fly backwards. Is that amazing? Or use it as a brake, right? So there's the real beauty of this helicopter and how they've modeled it here. Miltech Simulations done a great job here of animating the whole thing properly. Beautiful. Wonderful. All right, now when we do the rudder, you notice there's some there too. You see that? So again, when you're in helicopter mode, when you turn the rudder, when you push the rudder pedals, then it's actually turning the aircraft around on its axis. How does it do that without an actual rudder and without the anti-torque blade at the back, conventional helicopter? And it does that simply by using the main rotor blades. Pretty cool stuff. So I wanted to show you that before we fold it all up. All right, let's fold it all up. All right, let's do it from there. All right, so let's go into fold, full stow. Here we go. Ready? Click. And now it's going to go through all of these things. Let's go have a look on the outside and see what happens. Now this does take a while. It's slow because it's hydraulics moving all the pieces. You're going to see, first of all, you're going to see things like the blades are going to turn, and then you're going to see the whole engines turn, and then you're going to see the whole wing turn. Are you kidding me? Now, it should be starting any second. Let me just come in here quickly. Rotor lock. I'm just going to click it. There we go. There we go. And then now it's going to continue. It wanted me to confirm a rotor was locked. Rotor lock was up top, but it wants me to confirm on that screen. So now it's positioning them right because now it's going to fold them. All right, now take a look at this. It's going to fold them up. You don't actually need this down here anymore. So I'm going to take that out of the way so it doesn't distract you from what we're doing here. There's nothing more you'll see me do with the controls. So there we go. It's an automatic sequence, and now it makes them vertical, and then it folds them. Oh my gosh. Looks like they're broken now. Now it's turning them. If I actually turned up the sim sound, you'd hear it. Woo! You know, you hear that whole thing. Now, if that isn't enough, it says, well, we're still too wide to put into a hangar on a carrier. So let's just spin that wing around. That's what it's going to do next. There, you can hear that. And there it goes, you guys. I mean, is that the coolest thing? I mean, when I do this, I said this on the Twitch stream too. When I do this, I think about the Transformers song, you know, because it's really transforming, isn't it, into just a, I don't know, just an airplane without wings, really, when you see it when it's done. Quite the animation, isn't it? Transformers, more than meets the eye. And then once you're done all of that, then you just shut the whole thing down. They would then use a mule to tow it to the elevator, and the elevator would take it down to the hangars. Or they'd stow them, a bunch of them, on the... that just cleared that prop on the Spitfire. Whew, that was close. Oh, it looks like it's going to touch it, but it's not. It's the nose of the blade. Yeah, we're good. So there it is, all packed up and off the taxiway and ready to roll, you guys. That's how simple that is. It's automated, of course, and there was nothing we had to do. Sequence complete. Done. Now, the opposite would happen here. If you wanted to get into flight ready, then you'd have to just click on that and away you go. Simple as that, you guys. Okay, now it's your turn. You've seen a lot. You've seen some demonstrations. You've seen some theory. You've heard me talk about, in my opinion, and working with this airplane. Fumbling around the first few hours to the point where I was confident after 10 hours. And now 20 hours in, I'm still refining for sure. Showing you how things are done, but showing you the fact that it's going to take a lot to manage this beast. There's no doubt. So here in your turn, when you do this, you know, each of the things that I just showed you in VTOL mode or in vertical mode, helicopter mode, takeoff and landing, getting that gentle landing as you touch down, STOL takeoff and landing with that 60 degrees spawning into a runway exactly the way the sim does it for you, with everything on, no worrying about switches and settings, and just manage your NG. Again, take it back from 100% in less than a minute after takeoff. Get that nose forward and away you go. That conversion part is tricky. Do both, right? Convert to an airplane, go out to somewhere else, turn around, come back if you want, or go to another airport. Get down to the right altitude first before you completely go into helicopter mode and do your hover and land. That's just so cool. And then, of course, use your checklist to do your taxi, shutdown, and fold up, which is really cool. Now, the taxi part, keep in mind that you can taxi in either mode just by bringing the collective up just enough to be light on the wheels, and now move your cyclic forward. You'll see you're traveling still on your wheels forward down the taxiway with rudder control. It's pretty cool. Don't know if I actually demonstrate the taxi at all, but here, let's take a look at any other areas that I want to show you here. But thanks to Miltech Simulations, they do have a link here that you can use. And here, I'm ForderLearnToFly.com, so I put those links in there for you. All right. So, how did you do is what you'll ask yourself once you're done. How well did you do? Any comments about it? Any suggestions for beginners? Put them in the comments below. Let us know what you think about it. If you like the content that's happening here, by all means, subscribe. And by all means, do a follow and you'll find out when the next video is coming out. There's been so many new aircraft coming through now. We've been waiting, you know, the whole first year with this sim, we were waiting for new aircraft, and finally they're just coming at us left and right. This is the result of this one here is not part of the 40th anniversary, but 40th anniversary edition of MSFS brought out some new planes that I'll also be covering here on this YouTube channel. So be notified when those come out. I think the next one we'll do is the Beaver, my favorite float plane, my favorite airplane, Canadian de Havilland Canada Beaver, and the most versatile utility airplane in the world. I've always loved it for years and flown it in every sim. I'll do an in-depth on that next, in the next YouTube video that you guys will see here. All right. So here's something that you might want to try. Remember I mentioned about hovering, going into airplane mode, going somewhere else, coming back. You know, this is something I like to challenge in the Twitch stream. I like to challenge those participants who are live at the time. Here's a mission from EGKA. Echo Golf Kilo Alpha to Echo Golf Tango Delta to deliver supplies. And you can just, assume we're delivering supplies. That gives you a bit of urgency in there. They need those supplies today, You may hover to land or open the ramp and drop on a touch and go. I mean, this is what they do in real life. I've seen this with a Hercules, a C-130 Hercules, at an air show in CFB Trenton. They come in nice, low and slow. Looks like they're going to do a touch and go. They're level with the runway. They're touching the runway. The ramp's already open, and out comes this cargo parachute. A parachute pulling a cargo box. The cargo box happened to be a Jeep. And they kept going and took off, right? It's like, wow, they did a touch and go ramp drop. It's like, yeah, we can do that with this plane, right? Then come back around and land, your option, right? So at that same airport, right, at that destination, you've done the drop now, then you take off again, come back around and come in for whatever landing you want, either a STOL landing or VTOL landing, all right? The flying time between the two airports with this airplane, once you're in airplane mode, it's about 10 minutes. So it's a nice, easy mission to do, and it's just fun, right? Just a lot of fun. I would suggest once you get to the airport, if you don't know it well enough, then and you don't have charts with you, just overfly it to see the runway configuration. But still, if you're going to do a helicopter landing, just overfly it first at circuit height just to see what it looks like, and then figure out where you're going to land from there. That kind of thing. And these are what build up the skills, you guys. This is what builds up the skills. All right, I think that's it. I'll just give a couple of credits in here. I want to thank those who participated in my live sessions for coming in and trying this aircraft. We had a few of these in the area. So much fun with it. We actually did our practice areas in the grass, in the middle of the airport or off to the side of the airport, because we can do that, all right? Then we only use the runways for doing STOL landings and takeoffs. So I want to say thanks for your participation, everybody. Yeah, that is me in that picture. That's me when I want to be the old era aviator. That is a real flight cap that I use in ultralight airplanes. That is an officially certified and legal helmet to wear. And I have two of those, one for my passenger, one for me when I fly ultralight. So I put that on once for fun or something. I forget what it was. I was in a play or something, and people said, I really like that look. So I've kept the mustache, and I've kept those for once in a while. I'll do them. You might see that kind of icon flying around in the Twitch streams. That's Firewall Forder. You'll notice in this picture too, you notice there's some green up here on the blades, the rotor blades. You see that? That's a challenge now. There is a setting, I'll just say in the CDU, or the FMS area, there's a setting that lets you go in and find lights for the rotor blade tips. And when these things are spinning, ooh, maybe one of the finishing scenes here as this video fades, I'll have that turned on as this thing is flying. It's a wonderful thing. Wait till you see that in action. All right, you guys, I also want to thank Miltech Simulations for an excellent product. I mean, they did such a great job on it. It works so well. The animations are absolutely phenomenal. Just beautiful. And it's such a pleasure to be challenged, even after all these years of being a real pilot of typical small Cessnas, coming in here thinking I've got the skills that are needed for this, and I'm working hard at this. And that's the challenge that I love. And that's what we've got here. All right, thanks everybody, and don't forget to put your comments in there, good or bad, whatever you're thinking. We all learn from those comments. If it's constructive and we can learn from it, by all means, make some comments in there and let us know what you think. And in future videos, we'll be covering different airplanes and different techniques here in Learning to Fly. I'm Howard from ForderLearnToFly. See you in the next video, everybody.